Welcome to the video solutions for day 13 of Barvember. Question 1 is a very different look from what we've had before, but let's start in the normal way and see how many bars. Well, it is very different from what we've seen, but we've got two different things going on, so let's start with 2 and see if we can take each of these expressions in turn and see what we end up with, because obviously this green heart must mean the same thing in both. Okay, so our first bar modeling element is that we're using bars, using rectangles to represent numbers. And if we know the number, we'll write it in the bar. In this instance, with the green heart, we don't know the number, so we can't write it in the bar. We're adding 5, so we're adding on an extra 5 to our part. Now, we do know this, so we've written it in there. And we're told that together these make 12. And in these pictures, we use a curly bracket to indicate the sum or total of the bars that it covers. Looks like we have a way of working that out, doesn't it? But let's deal with this other element as well. So the green heart plus 8 equals something. Now look, whatever this is, it's the same as in the previous bar. So my green part here is the same size, plus 8. 8's bigger than 5, so I've used a bigger representation. And what we're being asked is to find out how much these two are together, and the question mark represents what we're trying to find out. Well, if 12 is the total of two things, then it looks like we're going to have to do a subtraction to start with. So let's follow through the maths, and if you have any questions, please ask your teacher. So there we have it, using bar modeling to solve, essentially, algebraic equations. That's interesting, isn't it? Question 2. We'll start as normal with how many bars. Let's have a quick read. Well, it looks like 2. We've got barrels and buckets. But actually, on closer inspection, it's really about water in the barrel, I think. So we'll start with 1 bar. Maybe we'll need to do this with 2 later, but we'll start with 1, see how we go. So that's my main bar modeling element. It's a rectangle to represent a number. And if we know the number, we'd write it in the bar. So we do know this number, which is 28. Now, I'm not actually going to write it in the bar this time. I'm going to write it outside because I think I've got some partitioning of this bar to do. So I could write it inside, but for now I'm writing it outside. Now I'm told that a bucket holds 5 litres of water, and I'm going to read that with the next line, that 3 buckets are filled from the barrel. So there we are. Those are the 3 5s that are filled from. So this is water taken from the barrel. So the English is complicated there. 3 buckets are filled from, okay? So this idea from is that they're taken out of. So we're going to do some subtraction at some point. But look, we've got 3 parts which are equal there. And whenever we see equal parts or equal numbers, that should be a big clue to us that we've got some multiplication or division to do at a later date. And we're asked how much water is left in the barrel. So we write our question mark there. And sure enough, we start with a multiplication to work out what these 3 5s are. And I'll let you follow through the maths there. If you have any questions, speak to your teacher. Question 3. Okay, how many bars? Well, this is just about a number, isn't it? So it looks like this is just 1 bar. But as I read further down, I have an ending number. Now he has double his starting number, and I'm asked what number he started with. So I've got a before and after. And when we have before and after problems, it's often worth going with 2 bars. So I think I'm going to have 2 bars to start with, a start and end, or a before and after. So that's Liam thinks of a number. That's my number there. He halves it. 2 equal parts for halving. Then he halves this half, 2 equal parts there. They're quarters, aren't they? And then he adds 35. Now he has double his starting number. So at the end, he has double his starting number, having added 35. So this was, he'd halved it again. He added 35, and we have double. Okay. Now, when we have, and what we're asked to find is what the number he started with. But whenever we have pictures like this, where some of the parts are equal, so those 2 green parts are equal, these 3 little parts are equal, we need to try and find a way to get everything into equal parts. Now, we said earlier that these were quarters, weren't they? So our first step is to turn our yellow bar into equal parts. Now, of course, our green bar was made up of 2 of these. So we can now see that everything here can be broken down into these little parts, the quarters of the yellow bar. And we can see from our picture now that that 35 we added on must represent 7 of these parts. So I'll let you follow through the maths now, and if you have any questions, talk to your teacher, please. Okay, question 4. So, how many bars have we got here? Okay, well, we've got a jar and we've got some rice, so maybe it's 2. But I think it's just about the jar, rather. I think this is just about the jar. I'm going to try this with 1 and see how I go. I may need 2. So there's my jar, and I'm going to add some rice. So this is actually the mass of the jar, isn't it? So this is the mass of the jar, and when the jar is 2/5 full, it has 2/5 of the rice. Okay? So when the jar is 2/5 full, the jar and rice, that's these, the little part of these 2 purple parts, have a total mass of 570. And I'm thinking immediately at this point that some of my bars are equal and this little one isn't. And I've got to find a way to deal with that at some point. Okay, so those 3 are 570. Now more rice is poured in until the jar is completely filled. So that's going to be these 3/5 here. And then I'm told that the mass is 1.2 kilograms. Oh, this is a bit cheeky. So we're switching between grams and kilograms. So you need to know that kilo means 1,000, and this is 1,200 grams. Okay. So look, it looks as if we're going to be okay now, because the difference in these 2 numbers should represent these 3 parts here, and I've found a way to get rid of my little part and work out what one of these parts is. So let's follow through the maths here. If you've got any questions, do please ask your teacher. There we go. So each of these parts is 210. So we can now find out what the mass of our empty jar is. Okay. So there we go. That's the end of our video solutions for day 13. I do hope you're still enjoying your bar modelling. Please get back to us if you've got any problems, and we'll see you for Thursday's solutions.